Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. I am your host, Patty G, here with Ellen Ogden of ElloArtist. We're going to be talking the Baton Rouge art scene. We're going to be talking mural painting, how you get those gigs, and also how do you land on the cover of 225 People to Watch in 2021. All of that going to be jam-packed in here with Ellen Ogden. Before we get started, I want to remind y'all about our wonderful and lovely sponsors, Alvarez Construction and Triton Stone Group. They are two incredible companies in the community that are building dreams and making families live a better life. So without further ado, Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for hosting me.
I am more than honored to be in the presence of someone of 2021 persons to watch. I mean, that's likewise. You got to do a lot to be featured on that, right?
I was shocked. To be honest, I didn't know that's what it was going to be until a week or so before she contacted me with some edits. And I was like, so what is it? Is it a feature? She was, oh no, it's people to watch. I was like, oh, okay.
A little bit more than you thought.
Yeah, I was incredibly flattered, shocked, etc. But it was a surprise.
Well, I'm sure that was probably a very lovely surprise. And
yes.
So in order to get there, what do? Who is Ellen Ogden and who is ElloArtist?
I'm born and raised in Baton Rouge. So I got to do a good bit of traveling in undergrad. Kind of got some perspective doing national student exchange and international student exchange.
They love it when the train drives by.
Yeah. Well, we're all tooting each other's horns here, so it's good.
Oh. But I'm chish.
Yeah.
Good one.
But anyway, I landed back here. I got that wanderlust out of my system, and I'm happy to be here. I feel like I get to serve in my art in my community where I'm from, so it's a cool thing. How I got on the cover of 225, that is a mystery and a shocker, and I don't know that it was 100% merited, but I'm so gracious and happy to be in that position. I'm an introvert too, so it was also like, oh my goodness, people are watching me.
I'm out there. Well, I'm sure within this 4-hour show,
right,
we'll be able to pull that out, right? I'm kidding. It's not 4 hours. So you do art, right?
I do.
How did you kind of get into art, and was it something difficult to get into?
I've always painted. I've always done art my whole life, and I got an art degree at LSU. I got a painting and drawing degree, and I got an art history degree. I actually thought I wanted to do museum work, curatorial stuff. I love to write, and so I did a number of internships at museums, writing the didactic material, which is the little plaques that go next to the artworks. And so I got to kind of dig through their archives of the museums I worked at and pick out works that were relevant or seemed cool and how they tied together, create a story with them. And I love that work, but I don't love sitting still in a cubicle. So I was, I put that aside and did a ton of other things after undergrad. I taught for a while and had a number of jobs through the way to sustain, waiting tables, doing all kinds of things that you do when you're doing your passion job.
Yeah.
And I also did stained glass for a number of years with Stephen Wilson.
Okay.
Who's a big master artisan, honestly, in Baton Rouge.
Really?
So he does big architectural installations of stained glass at churches and secular buildings. If you've ever been in the Pennington Research Center, the entry point for clients, we did that huge entryway thing. It's a bunch of active figures running. That was my first big job I did with him.
Wow.
So I kind of got my groundwork in how to understand those big architectural spaces doing that work with him. But my background is in painting.
Gotcha. So with a background in painting and writing for a museum, I mean, you go from like writing, I guess it's all kind of in the same creative space, right? Because writing with words and then painting with a brush are like two entirely different things. Like I can draw a stick figure, that's about it. But I can type up something well.
Right. Well, I think those are all creative avenues. I mean, what you do is incredible. I think it's amazing that you're a CPA and you do this because you're able to kind of tie questions in a real creative way together. I was having a conversation with the director at the West Baton Rouge Museum last week about her daughter who wants to get into creative enterprises. She's in high school right now. And she was like, she doesn't think she can draw. She doesn't think she can do anything. But she was real bright and creative, and creativity and that kind of thing is how to tie ideas together, I think. Mm-hmm. So if you can do that with words or, with didactic material in museums, that's all you're doing is how is this going to be relevant to people? How can I make a story out of this? How can I look at this beautiful work, see the relevance in that contemporary time and tie it to today in some way? How can I talk to a bunch of business owners and figure out how it relates to our community? How can entrepreneurial spirit tie through an artist to a CPA to a, all of these things? It's impressive. It's creative.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I can see that, and it's from your side, like what you're saying is you've got all these different backgrounds of doing lots of things to work to build that passion project. So what was some of the stuff you would do while trying to build a passion project, and how'd you kind of balance that? I mean, waiting tables and working for, doing stained glass windows, but also kind of building what you were after, what you were chasing to be your own self is not an easy task.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what I was chasing.
Okay.
I think that, so I was an in-house artist at Trader Joe's for 5-6 years. I actually just left that position right at the beginning of COVID.
So what does that entail? An in-house artist for Trader Joe's?
At every store, Trader Joe's is great. They have handmade stuff in all of their stores. So they have somebody on staff that's making those signs at every end cap with the display items. They have the murals commissioned around the store to give it a local flair and make it fit in the community. Their shtick is that they're a nationwide chain of neighborhood stores. So they want it to have a neighborhood vibe and they want it to be consistent while they're open. So that's why they do that, which I think is great. And so that looks like going in every day and painting signs as the displays change. I did get to travel a bit with the company. I painted murals for stores that opened in Oklahoma and the Metairie store. So that was my first big mural job.
Wow.
In New Orleans. So, and that's kind of where I started. I realized I loved that and I started to get more, try to get more freelance.
Yeah, because you've done a lot of murals that I've seen. You've done some tap rooms that are quite impressive.
Some is generous, but hopefully it will be some.
Well, so you did, was it parishes?
Yes. So I just did Parish last year. That was my big project during COVID that I was really fortunate to get.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's a massive warehouse space at the brewery. And for me, when I think of a mural and I think of or a painting in general, it's like a small space, right? And then a mural is like a side of a building or the inside of a store or something like that. How do you even go about beginning to tackle something of that magnitude?
It's so project specific. It depends on the passion and the need of the job. This one I got to work with another cool creative, which I don't get to do often. A lot of times it's just me and the business owner. So Daniel Duvik of Adjunct Creative did all of these beautiful labels for Parish's beer through the last 10 years that they've been open. So I got to pull all those designs of his and create a narrative story. So it was very similar to kind of my background and trying to create a story with words and didactics and all of that. It carries through a lot in all of the jobs that I do. But that looked like going back and forth with him and saying, what designs are the priority? What are the Flashbang designs that you've created? And going to Andrew at Parish, the owner of Parish, and creating a narrative. And honestly, they're so supportive and they're so excited by what I created. We didn't have to do that much back and forth. It was just like, this is cool. Let's do this.
Which as a creative is, huge. To have that, that work, that one-on-one work with a client or a business owner, and they say, hey, I want you to paint this or do this for me. And then they kind of give you the ropes, and say, hey, go free with it and do what you want and make it your own. Yeah. So long as you stay within these basic parameters, right?
Yeah. It's flabbergasted every time it happens. I'm like, really? You trust me?
No. You trust me to make that creative decision? You sure?
Yeah. But no, I think that's the true patron of the arts. And that's the true benefit of hiring an artist as a business. You see how creativity can bolster your ideas and bring more people in that you didn't have the ideas. Why you hire a designer or a creative to bring something fresh and new that you didn't think of. We were listening to a podcast about the Renaissance earlier, and that's like the Medici family in the early Renaissance, the true patrons of the art. They had these mythological and Christian underpinnings that they wanted purported, but they also just trusted Botticelli to create something cool. So you have all these really innovative things happen because patrons trust people, and it changes a whole form. It changes a whole direction, a whole era of art and history,
Yeah, so. And it allows that, individuality within art to really shine.
Yeah, I'm like, rewind. I'm not relating myself to Renaissance painters, but I'm just saying it's incredible to witness clients that have that mindset that are like, oh, art's cool, run with it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's cool to witness that and to experience it.
And like, I'm a huge fan of murals, and like Baton Rouge is kind of starting to branch out and be more open to having the sides of buildings painted.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, why haven't we been doing this? You know, it adds a little bit of flair and pizzazz to the buildings, and you don't just have this blank, you know, wall of nothingness.
Yeah. I think we're getting a lot more just awareness of what brings people to towns, you know? I think even I've seen a lot of like eco-tourism initiative too. So bringing people into your city and having memorable things. You don't want trash everywhere. You want beautiful buildings to take. It's funny because the digital world, you would think that would shut down, but it's actually created a renaissance of murals because people want something cool to go photograph in front of.
Yeah.
So
they want something to take a picture in front of, share post on their stories. I mean, with Parish having such an elaborate and out there, you know, tap room is such amazing art. It's like a focal point of going there, you know? It's like, okay, you have to go there to see this in person.
That's cool.
And
that
then you also
that.
drink
Thanks.
some beer and everything. Oh yeah, no, I had some friends who did a podcast there, and they were like, in their story, they were just like, look at this tap room. And it was like, not about like the taps and like the beer. It was like, no, look what's on the wall.
That's awesome.
Which I think is huge to have in a space like that.
What was the podcast?
The ABV podcast.
Oh yeah.
With Chuck P.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and it's like the fact that for an artist, you can paint something, put it up there, and everybody can see it.
Yeah.
And then they can appreciate it for years and years and years is huge.
Thanks. That's really cool. That was the goal. I mean, they're in Broussard. They're kind of off the beaten path, but they have a national following of craft beer lovers that are lining up out the door when they do a new release. So they wanted something that wasn't just, obviously the beer made the mark already. They don't have to fight for that. They make a really delicious, you know, craft beer. But they wanted something when people walk in, they're like, oh, this is a really cool place to just come hang out and visit, regardless of whether you're doing a release.
Yeah, and that's with a post-COVID life. We've all been cooped up for so long. We've all been stuck inside. I'm sure craft beer has, you know, just been elevated because what else are we going to do but drink, right? You know?
Yeah, I think they were fortunate to not be, you know, as affected because people wanted to drink.
Right. But within that, you also have this space created that people, when they go somewhere, they want to see something cool, right? They want to have an experience of going to someplace. And so art is an element of that experience.
Yeah.
If the walls are bland, it's a bland building, and they have this pretty cool event or something that takes place inside, great. They'll be happy about it and they'll talk about it.
Right.
But to get them to post about it on social media, which is such a heavy push for everybody across whatever business you're in, having that art, having that flair, that, you know, iconic picture to get your photo in front of is huge. And it's thanks to artists like yourself.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. Well, and their goal honestly was less that and more just let's celebrate what we've done and let's do it. When people come in here, they're not watching the TV. They're looking around the room and talking about something besides. They're trying to figure out what this story is and what the background is, and it's making them think about things a little deeper. So
yeah, that plays into your storytelling.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and within that, you know, to get a gig like that, you know, every artist I'm sure would be, oh, I got commissioned to do a mural. How do you get there? You know, for artists listening that are painting in their bedroom or painting in their dorm room and they're still at LSU or whatever university they're with, how do you get to that first gig? What did you do to get there?
I don't know. No, good question. I've been at it for like 8 years, so it's hard to say what got me there besides just constancy, you know? So I think art, especially if you're doing another career-driven job, you can kind of find a niche or you can find a brick and mortar where you're going to work, you know? With art, I think you have to really work at finding your voice and figuring out how that fits into a cog and wheel situation. It's not going to be direct always. So unless you're a graphic designer or a digital designer, a production company or something like that. So
yeah, like Flashbang production company. It's easy to sell that product, right? So like, but for art, how do you go about like getting people excited for art? I mean, or getting people excited to go down the art path?
Are people excited for art? That's awesome.
I mean, I am. I love seeing art and walking around and looking at cool things. You know, being able to walk downtown and seeing more and more murals being painted on buildings to me is exciting because it now makes it a more desire to walk around the city.
Good.
Instead of go to and from where you got to go, get there as quick as you can and get back.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool to hear. I think the way I started was, again, I had work through a company, through Trader Joe's, and I saw how art served a certain niche. And then the same time was doing commissions for people constantly, whether it be portraits of their family or landscape paintings or this or that. So I was keeping my chops up with painting the whole time. And then just seeing how I can deliver somebody's passion in a way that gets it in front of people's faces. I found a way to do that with my own hand and my own a way of using color. So how do you do that? Cold call, try it, just keep going,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not like a whole lot of direct path with art, I don't think,
Yeah, it's kind of do what you can and put it out there, right?
Exactly.
And that's kind of, I guess, where social media, might come into play. Has that
Huge.
Been something that you've seen has been helpful?
Huge. I am so unsavvy with it, but absolutely. I have gotten most of my business through word of mouth and I think self-promotion on social media. So definitely figuring out how to post your things in a way that's not just self-serving or not just, insular and get it out to a community or speak to somebody else's passion or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. I think for artists, like for me, like if I was, helping somebody get a brand or something started for an artwork or an art gallery or just a painter in general, it's like you want to put your content out there, right, for people to see. But at the same time, don't put, hey, DM me for work all the time, just right. Like you said, like with your museum history, write your story. What motivated you to paint this piece?
Yeah.
What is the background of this piece? And sometimes it's not a lot, I'm sure, as you have experienced. Like, I just wanted to paint, this pretty tree.
Sure.
But it's also having that written word of going through the motions, right? Of
Maybe
I
so.
wanted to do this because it was, a pretty day and the day reminded me of something in my past. And it was just like, I just want to show appreciation for this.
Yeah. And I think that's just staying genuine. So I don't know if there's a prescription for that besides
Right.
just that,
Yeah, it's being true to yourself, right?
Yeah, or and not trying to feed into something or not trying to pander to a particular thing,
Yeah, like you said at the beginning, find who you are and be true to yourself. As an artist, you don't want to go and ask a client, what do you want me to paint? It's like, I want you to paint this specific sign, and you get known for painting specific signs, but then in that you're letting someone else dictate your voice.
Yeah, maybe so.
And if you hate painting one thing, you don't want to always do that.
Yeah, which you might end up doing, and then you figure out you hate that after you do it, and you change.
Yeah.
Don't get sucked into it.
That's many a common phrase for changing your major, right? You start doing one thing and then you shift and you shift and you shift.
Yeah, for sure.
Art can kind of be the same way. You might realize you liked doing stained glass, or you might realize you hated doing stained glass.
Right, which, both of those things exist. There are things that you love and hate about everything, I'm sure, in everybody's career. For me, I think it's hard to speak to this point of like, how do you do that? Because I'm just reacting to the work and creating the best thing that I can for every client. And so I'm like, I don't have a business prescription for you because that's not where my mind rests. That's not where my passion rests. That's not what I'm reacting to. I'm reacting to the other person's passion or their inception story or their mission, whether it be a bar or a nonprofit or whatever it is. I'm thinking about that instead of, how am I going to brand this? How am I going to sell this to people that aren't in this company? I'm thinking more of like, whoa, this is amazing. I want to make it as amazing as possible for people to see, So
yeah, it's like bringing their vision to life almost.
Yeah, for sure. Things like Rouge Creole, not having a depth of knowledge about Creole cuisine, going in and hearing more about how he's trying to showcase global cuisines through this Creole menu. People might not know that just glancing at the menu. I mean, if you're really looking, you see it. But if you have a map on the wall and you have the language, the Corriveni, the Creole language, and you're looking around wondering, what is that? You're gonna look more. You're gonna think about it more, and you're gonna ask questions, and you're gonna be excited by it because it feels genuine, because it is.
Yeah.
So it's just a a broadcast of that. It's cool to be able to do that with my art.
Right. I mean, which now that it's, do you ever like find yourself walking around Baton Rouge like, oh, that's my piece? Or,
No.
oh, I did that.
No, I don't do that. I don't, you're your own worst critic, and I pour everything I have into the projects, but I don't even hang my own artwork in my house. I'm like clean slate. There's enough going on in here all the time that I don't want to look back and reflect too much. I'm proud and I'm excited for the businesses, and I definitely want to celebrate them. But as far as like, that's mine, check. No, that doesn't happen.
Well, you got to take a step back every now and again to appreciate what you've done thus far.
I'm grateful for what I have right now. I'm great. I try and live right here, right now, and be present, and not let plans drive ambition. Let the real, work, or the real like attitude behind everything drive the present moment.
Yeah.
If that's
makes sense.
Yeah.
So how is the art community and the art scene around here in Baton Rouge?
It's cool. There's some really neat things happening right now. The Arts Council is opening the Carrie Siraj building downtown. Are you familiar with that?
I am not. What is that?
They're doing a whole new building for the Arts Council. They're renovating a building next to the old courthouse. It's going to have some rental spaces, so recording spaces, dance studios, just basically trying to cater to the artists in our community and create community, because it is hard. It's disparate. If you're not in it, if you didn't go to art school, if you didn't, have an entry point, it's hard to enter. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be a really great thing to have that there. And they're generating a lot of content with podcasts and things like that are bringing it all together. So I think we're in a really cool place in Baton Rouge arts culture. I think we're starting to have like some bridges happen that are great.
We're starting to have like a blossom of a flower almost.
Yeah, I like that. Getting artsy.
I'm trying, all right? It's just the CPA in me is like so numbers driven, so data driven. But then, when you go and do something creative, it kind of opens the other side of your mind and makes you think a little bit differently.
How many artists have you interviewed?
I think you're the first true artist.
Maybe. Who's to define.
But it's still, I've had people who are creative and do it. Like we've had Jordan Heffler on the show.
Oh, she's
who's
awesome.
A photographer.
Yeah.
And having those people that come on and just, whether it be creating an app or creating a company, they're creative individuals, nonetheless. But having somebody like put, ink to paper, color to paper, and actually present a piece of art is, in my mind, still fascinating, because I can't fathom being able to do something like that,
Yeah, that's generous. It's just a skill, like adding numbers or any of those
There's
things.
calculators for that.
Yeah.
So within the 225 people to watch, was it 225 people to watch, or was it business report people to watch?
225.
225 people to watch. Have you seen anything kind of positive come from that? If people called you, and have you gotten jobs from that? Has that been like a good?
It's been great. I've had a lot of people, a lot of clients like just send me positive, things, which is always good. I work by myself most of the time, so the more network and more community that it can drive, I think, is really great. I'm not sure if it's come directly from that, but I do have some really exciting jobs that are in the works that I hope that it benefited, and I hope that it benefits the community from that. So I think it will, which again, I don't talk about till they're done, or at least well into it.
What can we talk about?
There's some great things. I'm finishing up with Emerge Center right now.
Okay.
Do you know that school?
I do know Emerge, yes.
Yeah, so that's a project I'm ecstatic to be participating in with their fundraising. They can't do the same thing they usually do with COVID right now, so they're doing a lot of virtual fundraising, and my part is to produce a painting with the kids. So I had them participate, and I went over there, and they painted on the work itself, and I'm creating something in tandem and reacting to their marks that has to do with Autism Awareness Month. So that's really cool.
Okay, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So was there ever a time, like when you were kind of doing something to support the passion project, where you thought just tossing in the towel and going a different route?
Oh, every day.
Every day?
Do you not have that thought?
Of just tossing in the towel and
you're
pulling
doing
the plug?
a podcast in tandem with your CPA. I mean, surely you have that thought.
I mean, it's a thought. Like when I think about it personally, it's, okay, I could pull the plug and I could not do this anymore. And what what good would that do me if I just stopped doing it, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I just stopped doing it because of whatever reason, I woke up that morning and I was like, you know what, I'm just not feeling it. You know, that would have to be something that would have to make me want to pull the plug. But if it's like a challenge or something, it's like, no, you just got to get through it, right? You've got multiple challenges you're going to face regardless of what industry you're in, regardless of what you do, that if you don't get past it and you just let that roadblock defeat you, you're never going to know what's on the other side.
Yeah,
and you're always going to live with that in the back of your head, that what if.
Right.
Like that is like, if you ask like, what are my biggest fears? It's like, well, unsteady heights and what if, right? It's, you know, that
you
what if
work
question.
With me.
It's like, what if I didn't stay up the extra 2 hours and push and do this project and finish this out?
That makes me want to let you sleep late. I'm so sorry.
No.
Sleep's so important.
I know it is. I get adequate sleep.
Good. Okay.
I get adequate sleep.
No, it's not. It's not that it's a challenge that feels unsurmountable. It's more art can feel pretty gratuitous sometimes, you know, and you wonder if what you're doing is the most that you can serve or the most that you can give. So, you know, though it's beautiful and lovely, I have to get that constant engagement with people to understand that it is serving, it is doing something good for if it's the business or the community. Because my impulse is like, maybe I'll just go to nursing school or something. You know, it's not that it's a project that's too big or scary. Those are great. Mm-hmm. It's just like, is this enough purpose behind the task? Is this the right thing? So I think that ultimately drives me to produce something with a ton of purpose in every project.
Right. So to you, it's
whether or not that's a good thing.
It's like it's purpose over profit almost.
For sure. Yeah, the monetizing thing is, you know, secondary for me, for sure.
Which for a lot of creatives, it almost kind of feels like that is the case as well. I mean, for me, I know for me personally, that's, you know, when I was actually on Jordan Heffler's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we got down this same kind of conversation of, you know, do you ever want to pull the plug? You ever want to stop? And I was like, I'm so much process over profit.
Yeah, good for you.
Which is probably not a good business model.
No, I think I had words with Charlotte about that.
Yeah.
Who I wish was here.
Right. Yeah, come on, Charlotte. Gosh. But yeah, it's when you get to that point of you want that process over the profit, from a business standpoint, can't always be good. So it's always nice to maybe either have someone in your ear telling you, hey, think about the bottom line, think about getting that revenue in.
Right.
But at the same time, you wake up and it's not like, oh, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do this so I can make the money. It's like, no, I'm going to do this because I love it.
Right.
Which I imagine is the same thing for you.
It's both. I mean, I'm staunchly independent, so I don't want to be dependent on anybody. So that drives me for sure. But it absolutely is, how am I going to make this? It's a puzzle. Every project follows an arc of, okay, this is meaningful because of X, Y, Z. This is how I can serve. And then it reaches, is it? Question. and then it goes another hump of, yes, here's why. Here's how I'm digging into culture or relevance or passion. And I dig my heels more and more into it as the design progresses. And so for sure it's process over dollar bills every time.
Yeah. But then at the end of the day, to become sustainable, you know, especially as like an artist, you've got to figure out that pricing model or like how do you price your work, you know?
Well, with social media, there's so many resources, YouTube, Instagram, all of it to compare and to get industry standards. So one of the things I did a few years ago that really helped me was going to Crop, which I don't know if they're still doing this creative conference, but it was a creative conference held in Baton Rouge, and they're changing locations now, so I might not get to go in the future. But it did things like that, ground some actual productive, you know, the machine of how am I going to make this work and make it sustainable. And it granted insight on industry practices and comparing pricing. And there's a ton of people that offer that online now too. So,
really?
Yeah, if you contact, people are candid. We want to make the market equal. I have friends in town that do very similar work to me, and it doesn't make sense to compete over price. Why would we want to undercut each other? It's not going to do anything for the market. We have our own niche. Let's make the pricing comparable so we can serve our own niche. There's no reason to undercut each other and get a job that is not benefiting you or I because it's not paying adequately anymore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's for any new business, whether it be art or, you know, somebody's got an app idea or a different company they're trying to build. Pricing is like one of the huge, you know, hurdles they've got to get over is where do we price it at? You know? You don't want to underprice yourself and then be stuck in this rut of doing so much work and so much effort and so much time to then be paid so little in return. But at the same mark, you don't want to overprice yourself to where then no one's picking you up.
Right. It's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah, which I'm sure is something difficult for the, you know, for the art community. It's like, I couldn't tell you how to begin to price a piece of art. I couldn't tell you how to price a mural.
Right.
You know, and that's a challenge because it's not, when you look at like kind of like the education system and how that's, you know, how they kind of collide, right? For my accounting degree, we were all numbers, all, you know, business models. How do they price this? How do they do this? How do you do that? And then in like the art school, like, was there anything like that?
No, that's something super lacking in liberal arts and all of that. It's a huge problem. And actually, Arts Council, again, has some really good things for that. They're offering all kinds of grant workshops and how do you make this work in a sustainable career? And it should be part of, you know, the college system that's in the arts program. It doesn't make sense that it's not there, but it's there now in the zeitgeist and in Instagram and in local arts councils and stuff like that. Unfortunately, you still have to dig your way into it. It's not on the forefront of your classes and things like that. It's all conceptual and it's all craft in the arts world. So I learned how to paint. I learned how to do a lot of beautiful things. I learned craft. I learned critical thinking and critical, you know, analysis of things. But as far as, you know, how do I make this? How do I sell this? How do I do this? Not at all. Which is why I'm not interested in academia. Honestly, that was one of the paths I was thinking I wanted to go. Get an MFA, but it's, again, so insular. And then you're promoting this sort of classist system where and I have nothing against my professors in the world that they have because they gave me so much, but I couldn't see myself being satiated promoting that or being in that world. It felt too self-servicing kind of.
Right, kind of almost restricting.
For sure.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at the different paths of an entrepreneur, for example, they're not going to all come from the College of Business. They're not all going to come from this one area of a university. They're going to come from many different sectors.
Yeah.
And more likely than not, they'll be recommended to partner up with somebody from a business side of things.
Yeah.
But as an independent, as a freelancer, when you're by yourself, you may not want to. You know, not just out of, I didn't have anybody connect. Like, no, I wanted to have this sense of accomplishment, this sense of self-accomplishment.
Yeah.
That I wanted to do it for myself. I wanted to do this for what I wanted because, again, that passion that is within that creative, within that entrepreneur.
Sounds like you're speaking for yourself.
Maybe.
That's cool. Yeah.
Maybe, but it's, how can that be kind of morphed together?
Yeah.
I guess is the focal point out of that.
How can what be morphed
How
together?
can you have an arts division also morph in how to make it a sustainable business?
Yeah, well, and that's something I still have really close friends that are in like the New York art world and are professors now. And it's really interesting to watch their careers and still engage and understand what they're doing, but see it as so outside of my practice and any of my clients and what they would engage with. So I think it's important to have both. I mean, it's important to have those heady ideas produced in a circle, but it's a currency produced within itself. So I think it's hard to get a community like Baton Rouge or anybody in Louisiana to bite on some of those really heady ideas or, you know, art for art's sake kind of thing. I like art for service's sake. So if it's promoting a culture or a really interesting food or, you know, an idea for a nonprofit, I think that's connecting directly, whereas you don't have to have the history of art to understand it. You don't have to digest all of this knowledge to enter. It's kind of for the everyman, where if you're, you know, getting off the bus, you can look at it and get something from it. If you're, you know, leaving your office downtown, it still speaks to you in some other way. You don't have to understand that that pile of clothes in the corner was created by this poor Italian that, did it in the midst of a crisis. And so that's why it means something. You can look at it and get something from it.
Yeah. When it's got like a recipe almost for it. It's like, hey, we want you to draw this to tell this story, as opposed to just going and creating something from within.
Well, I hope that it's both. I'm definitely creating from, you're creating something that's speaking from your voice, but it's not speaking from a voice that's a cordoned off group of people that only have access to that information and history. Mm-hmm. There's, you can look at a brick and know that it's a structural thing. So you can look at a piece of art and know that there's something behind it that's going to speak to, if it's a color or a figure or words, they're going to say something without some esoteric knowledge behind it. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what in Baton Rouge do you feel is kind of missing from the art scene?
Community. I think a really strong bridge between all of the arts. I think we need more events and more productive dialogue like we're having here. How do we make this sustainable and within each little niche with that, whether it be visual artists or production companies, or how can we come together and make this city something like Austin or, somewhere that people come for the arts. It's got potential for that, I think.
Yeah, I think we're open-minded enough to, try anything, right? Especially after COVID of being locked up. You're like, oh yeah, we'll go to any event. We'll do any festival. You got it. We'll be there,
Yeah, hopefully so. But seeing how it can serve the bigger community too, businesses benefit, patrons benefit, everybody's excited by it, and it's a joyful experience for everybody.
Right. So then should we put on like an art festival or something? Is that what you're hinting at?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but I think somebody should. I've got my hands tied with enough that I'm trying to produce with meaning, but that's a beautiful idea. I think the Carrie Siraj building is going to do a lot. And I think there's some exciting things in the water. There's, I got an email last week. There's a Black artist on the Mississippi traveling exhibit, pop-up exhibit. So there's things happening that people are realizing Baton Rouge is a stop to participate in. Mm-hmm. So it's picking up speed,
Yeah, and it's like from a tourism standpoint, that's starting to kick back up within the local area. We're starting to have cruise ships come back, and it's so what can we do as a community to make it so inviting when people step off and the first thing they see in Baton Rouge is like, what do we want it to be? Yeah,
exactly.
How do we get their eyes like, oh, let's go check this out, or oh, I've heard so much about this. How do we build that, that talk, that chatter to get people here?
Right. I think Baton Rouge has a lot of culture, but it's not resurrected yet. I think you look at Lafayette, you look at New Orleans, and the art scene is thriving, and we can look at them and kind of figure out how to get our culture back at the surface. We've been there the whole time, but we need to bring it up.
Yeah. So what actionable steps can we do? Maybe?
Good question. I think keep going, doing things like this, promote the arts. I think talk to businesses about how it's important. There's a lot that commerce can do with the arts in tandem with each other, and that's how to make it relevant. So I hope that what I'm doing serves a little bit of that. I hope that it makes people realize like, oh, showcasing artists and arts events and things like that actually is beneficial to my business, and it's beneficial to the community, and I feel good, they feel good. It's actually positive, and I can do this, and I can bring communities together this way.
Yeah, and it's like we've got a couple of those like Mid-City Makers. They bring like local makers around to these events and promote it and bring people to them.
For sure. There's things happening where people will be renting art, like businesses can rent artists' work and showcase it, which is a great opportunity for up-and-coming artists. That exists all over the place, but I just heard they're starting to revive a program like that in Baton Rouge. There's music festivals where I think you can do tandem and collective art, so you can tie in production companies and musicians and artists and get something really activated in a space that maybe helps tie some North Baton Rouge with the rest of Baton Rouge too. There's a lot of divisiveness still in our town that we can work through with the arts, which I think is exciting with everything that happened during COVID as well.
And I know we had Horatio from Southern Kofi come on.
Nice.
And I've been into his shop before, and he's got art all on his walls, and it's all got like a little QR code for it.
Beautiful.
So you can go and purchase that art
what a
from
great
a local
idea.
artist. And his space is truly incredible with what he's got going on there.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing some super great things, promoting the community, promoting local makers.
Oh, I definitely want to go.
And his like you just walk and it's like wall to wall. There's like art everywhere. Like anywhere he could fit a piece of art, he put a piece of art.
I should ask you what the actionable steps are. You've got them built up.
I think we're getting there with putting on more events that is co-events, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just a single event to do one specific thing.
Right.
You know, we can commingle different sectors within one event.
Exactly.
Because people will come out and it gives them more to do, right?
Right.
You know, people want something to go, they want to go to an event, they want stuff to do, they want activities to participate in.
Yeah.
So if they're able to go around and learn about local artists, learn about local makers, and then participate and support them, I think that is a good step to getting people to kind of see, hey, Baton Rouge is starting to take strides and getting to, like you said, like the Austin, the Lafayette, you know, the New Orleans, building that culture from within and really showcasing who we are.
Right. And I think we have a lot of work to do with digging out that culture because I think a lot of it's not represented. So I think we're in a good place.
Yeah, I think
to start doing that.
And I think COVID is kind of like a turning of the page. Like now that we're getting towards the end of it, it's a turning of the page for a lot of people of what can I do now?
Right.
Where can I go from here? I spent a year cooped up, thinking and pondering, wanting to do this thing. You know, like if you wanted to start a business, truly, like you had more time on your hands during COVID with, you know, stuff being closed. I was like, okay, let's really put a game plan in place so when you can make it happen, you can pull the trigger.
Yeah,
right? You can
hopefully
get there
people
and make
can do
it
that.
work.
Yeah, so many people didn't have the resources. They're just trying to get through. So hopefully that was a potential for a lot of people. But now I think you're right. I think the communal gatherings, it's going to launch a lot of exciting things that are starting to open back up with vaccinations and everything. So
get everybody back to the normal or new normal, right?
Right.
So as we kind of start to wind down the show, we ask for specific questions, hard-hitting, pounding questions. One of them we lead off with is, what are 3 lessons you've gathered along the way within your career thus far?
Yeah. 3 lessons. Trust your instincts, trust your own capabilities. If you're an artist especially, I think listen to your voice because no one else has it. So if you can follow that niche instead of trying to pander to some specific thing to get work, then you're going to have much better results that everybody will benefit from. I think be pragmatic, something sustainable. If you're not getting huge jobs, don't quit your day job, keep going with a side job, look at ways to make it sustainable and make it a career-based thing that you're going to be able to keep going on and not burnt out within 6 months. Let's see.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's tough.
That second one is huge. Being able to realize that you can't dive off after day one of opening whatever it is you've opened, and that it's going to be extremely successful from day one.
Of course, yeah.
Right? It takes time.
Exactly.
Like, patience is the biggest factor in anything, whether it be art, whether it be in starting a new business, whatever it is. Having that patience and understanding that nothing happens overnight, and in fact, the best successes are 10 years in the making, 8 years in the making. It's like the best overnight successes are 10 years within their path so far.
Right. It's like, did you ever expect to be doing podcasts initially and all of your different entrepreneurial, so you got to let it unwind as it should and trust what happens and react to those things. Podcasts weren't a thing probably when you started out doing all kinds of entrepreneurial things.
No, when I was 11, podcasts went around.
11? What was your first entrepreneurial
lawn
thing?
cutting business.
Nice. That's a good one.
Cutting grass at 11.
That's great. So you've always been an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneurial minded.
Yeah.
I had stable jobs and still do as a CPA. It's not a full in the deep end entrepreneur, but it's the entrepreneurial spirit that lives deep within. And it's, you never know where the road is going to lead you, but being open-minded and, like you said, loving that process, loving that passion, and always doing what you're passionate about, you're going to end up where you want to, so long as you're patient.
Yeah, I mean, well, or you're just where you are, and that's where you want to be because you've created it.
Which
right?
is awesome, right?
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
be where you want to be and know that you've created it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I guess that would be the third thing. Don't put the cart before the horse, So be patient, exactly like you said. Don't let your ambition kill what's at your fingertips, So let things that you experience drive what you're doing instead of being streamlined into something or putting your blinders on to the world, to this one driving point. Be open and let things in your pathway serve you and serve other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is something you did as a kid you wish you still could do today?
That's tough. The first thing that comes to mind is I read a naturalist book when I was in second grade, and I always thought I wanted to do some sort of biology or naturalist study, I guess that would be it. Dig around in nature and look at bugs and birds and plants.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do some biology. I mean, the coast is always the hot spot for biologists, especially here in Louisiana.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here with coastal restoration and all kinds of scientists migrating down here to help us out. It's cool.
Oh yeah, I know the Mississippi River is just a total fascination globally.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things to our poor Mississippi River, but for sure, it's cool. I actually live in Port Allen, so I love going over the bridge every day and seeing that huge body of water.
Wait. You don't love going over the bridge?
I love going over the bridge.
With traffic?
Well, you time it.
Okay.
But honestly,
okay. Nobody really loved taking the bridge anywhere.
Well, it's a moment of pause where you're like, holy cow, look at this huge beast of nature in front of me. You forget that you've got something to do or some pressure, some stress, because you see the bigger picture in those moments. You look at, I think nature is so important for that. You stop and you look and you're like, hold on, is this actually important? Where am I and what am I doing? Okay, it's so meager in the scheme of things,
Yeah. I like that viewpoint.
Yeah, here, that's what I gave to you today.
I'll take it. I'll take it and run with it.
Yeah.
So what do you love about Baton Rouge?
We kind of touched on a lot of it. I think we're in a big point where bridges are being made and we're blooming and things are
I have no idea what that noise was.
It's cool. Things are changing and generative right now, and so it's cool to witness and participate in. I came back here. I thought I wanted to live a bunch of other places, but ultimately you pave the happiness that you want. So I think Baton Rouge has a lot to offer right now, and we all need to dig our heels into that and make it the best we can.
That's going to be a t-shirt. You pave the happiness you want. I think that's excellent.
Oh,
I love
thanks.
that.
Thanks.
So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
Ooh, you did it just now. Thank you.
No. Something outside of the show. That's such a generic answer. The show helped me.
No, I mean, just this conversation, this dialogue is generative. I
Okay.
think what you're doing is really positive. What can you do to help me? Tell me how I can help you. What can I do to help you? Cool. That's easy.
Get some more murals within the city,
Yeah?
not
Yeah.
just downtown. Get it in the city.
Tell me, that would be great. That's what you can do to help me. Tell me how art's cool and continue to promote that kind of thing. And whether it be entrepreneurs or artists, or drop those seedlings with people, how art has benefited you and you enjoy it, etc.
Well, I'll see what I can do on that front,
And tell me how I can help you.
yeah. There's always something, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ellen, for coming on.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming out. You've got some
Appreciate all you
absolutely
guys.
adorable dogs.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you all for sitting and watching with us. Not quite yet. No, we're not done yet, but yeah, sure. Thank y'all. Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Corgi. So thank y'all, everybody, for coming out tonight. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening, whatever platform you're absorbing this on. I greatly appreciate your time, and I know that the guests do as well. You all make this possible through your feedback, through your support of the show. We'd appreciate any likes, shares, or comments to the show. And we also want to say a big thanks to our sponsors, Alvarez Construction. They do a lot more than just build a home. They build communities, and they build places for you to raise your family and live out your dreams. And another big thanks to our second sponsor, Triton Stone Group, a family-run, woman-owned company that is helping you build your dreams and making sure everything is to your aesthetic please. And they're doing some great things in the community. So be sure to check out Triton Stone and Alvarez Construction for all of your needs. And so without further ado, thank you all very much. I'm Patty G, host of The Patty G Show, here with Ellen Ogden of ElloArtist. Y'all have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks so much.